Chicago, South Side, present day. They called him Caleb Ward, but on the streets, his name had weight. It wasn't just a name, it was a legacy. 10 years ago, his family was murdered in a quiet corner of Bronzeville. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't random. It was a message. The killer? A man named Silas Cain, a street legend turned drug kingpin, and once the closest thing Caleb had to an uncle. Cain ran the Velvet Circle, a ruthless crew that moved heroin, fentanyl, and fear from South Shore to Englewood. He ruled with charm in public and cruelty in private. And when Caleb's father, a mid-level distributor, tried to pull out for his family's safety, Cain made sure they never got that chance. Caleb was 14. He watched them die, and then he disappeared. Now he was back, older, colder, built like a boxer, with a jagged scar running from his chest to his shoulder. But he didn't come back alone. He stepped out of a gray Charger at midnight with a man named Preach, a former Marine turned reform enforcer who now ran a boxing gym by day and gathered intel by night. "You sure you want to do this?" Preach asked, lighting a blunt with fingers still calloused from war. Caleb stared down the block. A known Velvet Circle stash house. "I'm not here for peace," he said. "I'm here for Cain." Preach exhaled slow. "Then let's start knocking." They moved like ghosts through the alley. Black hoodies, latex gloves, Glocks drawn. Inside the house, 3 velvet boys played 2K while bags of powder dried on the kitchen counter. The front door burst open. 2 shots. 2 bodies. Caleb pinned the third to the wall. "Where's Cain?" The man stammered, blood in his mouth. "Cain's untouchable, man. He don't even run Chi no more. He in Detroit now, watching from a penthouse." "Watching what?" The man grinned through the pain. "You heard you was back." Caleb pressed the muzzle to his head, then let him keep watching. Bang. Back in a hidden lounge on Chicago's west side, the woman they once called Queen Mary counted money behind a reinforced bar. She wasn't royalty in the traditional sense. She was more dangerous than that. Mary Dalton used to run with Cain back in the day, helped launder his money through high-end nightclubs and strip joints. She'd once loved Caleb like a brother, and maybe more. Now, she kept her circle tight and her hands clean on the surface. When Caleb walked into her lounge that night, everything stopped. "Damn," she said. "I thought the rumors were just ghosts." Caleb looked older, angrier, but his voice was steady. "I need your help." She poured a glass of dust and slid it to him. "You're asking me to go to war against Cain. That man gave me my first $1,000,000. He also left my mother in a pool of blood." Mary stared into her drink, silent. "Then, you got a plan?" Caleb nodded. "One by one, we take M, then we burn the empire." Meanwhile, downtown Detroit, Silas Cain wore a tailored cobalt blue suit and sat in a rooftop office overlooking the skyline. Everything about him was refined. Expensive cologne, imported liquor, clean fingernails. You wouldn't know he once choked a man to death with a coat hanger for stealing $5,000. Trinity Locke, his most trusted lieutenant and cold-blooded fixer, handed him a tablet. "Ward's back," she said. "Hit one of our stash houses. 3 dead." Cain sipped his bourbon, unfazed. "Let him swing. We'll show him this ain't a game no more." Trinity raised a brow. "You want him dead?" Cain smirked. "I want him broken, like his father." Back in Chicago, Caleb and Preach recruited fast. Eloise Switchblade Carter, a Dominican girl from Humboldt Park, who once gutted a man in a bathroom stall for shorting her on a deal. Now she worked security at Mary's Lounge. Jonah Bricks Gaines, fresh out after a 7-year stretch at Menard, known for using cinder blocks the way others use fists. Alton Graves, a former narcotics detective turned private eye, who once investigated Cain before getting framed and discharged. Now he was eager for revenge. The crew was locked and loaded, but this wasn't the Wild West. This was modern war. Their first move, sabotage. A trap house in back of the yards, fronted as a tire shop, went up in flames at 3:14 a.m. The next night, 2 of Cain's runners were found duct taped to a pole on the Dan Ryan, naked with snitch carved into their chests. Cain's empire was shaking. But Caleb wasn't finished. Next, he said to Mary, we hit the Velvet Room. Mary froze. That wasn't just a club. It was Cain's flagship. It was where everything started. You blow that up, she warned. And Cain ain't just going to send hitters. He'll come himself. Caleb stared out the window, scar burning beneath his shirt. That's the point. South Loop, Chicago, the Velvet Room. From the outside, it looked like a luxury lounge. Glass facade, velvet rope, doormen in black suits. But inside, the Velvet Room was Cain's cathedral. This was where alliances were made and rivals were buried under champagne toasts. It was also where Caleb Ward's father had been dragged into a back room and never walked out again. Tonight, that same room was about to become a battleground. 11:47 p.m. The beat thumped loud, heavy with bass. Drug money danced on tables. Girls laughed too loud. No one noticed that the bartender was missing or that the bathroom doors had been locked from the outside. Mary Dalton walked through the crowd in a crimson leather trench coat. On the surface, she looked like she belonged, like a queen reclaiming her throne. She made her way to the DJ booth and nodded once, then walked out. Exactly 2 minutes later, all hell broke loose. Boom! An explosion shook the back half of the building. Fire swallowing the kitchen and stairwell. Bricks came through the emergency exit, like a linebacker, shotgun raised. Eloise switchblade Carter cut the lights with bolt cutters in the fuse box. Preach moved through the smoke with an AR-15, picking off velvet soldiers one by one. And Caleb, silent, focused, surgical, headed straight to the office where Cain's interim Chicago captain, Vic Ice Maddox, was known to hold court. Vic stood up the moment the door crashed open. You got a death wish, Ward. Caleb aimed. No, just good aim. Bang. Vic's body dropped like a bag of wet cement. By 12:06 a.m., the Velvet Room was burning from the inside out. Cain's empire had been hit at its heart. Back in Detroit, Cain was on the phone, pacing. What do you mean Vic is dead? He hissed. That man handled my pipeline from the lakefront to Indiana. Trinity Locke's voice was cool and composed. Ward took out the entire Velvet Room. They're playing chess, not checkers. Cain slammed the phone down and stared at the skyline. Fine, he whispered. He wants to draw blood? I'll bleed his city dry. He called up a number marked Phoenix 3. Send them in. South side, west side, don't matter. I want the body stacked so High Ward can't see daylight. The retaliation came fast. In Pilsen, a safe house used by Caleb's crew exploded in the middle of the night. One of Mary's cousins, 16 years old, died inside. In Roseland, 2 of Brick's old associates were found with their tongues cut out and nailed to a fence. Cain wasn't just fighting back. He was sending a message. Caleb stood over the body bag in Mary's club. The kid inside had been just that, a kid. I thought we were in control, Mary said, voice cracking. Caleb clenched his jaw. We are, but Cain doesn't play fair, so we stopped playing, too. That night, he met the crew in the back of Preach Gym. A map of the city was laid out. Red marks for Cain's known stash spots, blue for their own. We hit every one of these, Caleb said. All of them, but we do it smart, surgical, quiet. Preach looked up, and when Cain comes back himself, Caleb's eyes were ice. That's when we take his soul. Meanwhile, Trinity Locke was already watching. From a rooftop 2 blocks away, she scoped the gym with binoculars, speaking into a mic. They're planning something big, she said. Ward's getting reckless, but smart. Want me to take the shot? Her sniper partner asked. She shook her head. No, let the fire rise first. Later that week, in Little Village, Eloise and Bricks blew up a narcotics warehouse connected to Cain's Detroit shipping line. Nearly $3 million worth of product went up in flames. In Hyde Park, Graves leaked damning financials about Cain's laundering front to a dirty IRS agent, who promptly turned on Cain when his cut went missing. Cain's name was on every whisper in the underworld, and the whispers were saying, he's slipping. But Cain was far from done. 2 nights later, Mary was abducted outside her club, tied up, blindfolded, driven for hours. When the hood came off, she was staring at Cain himself, seated across from her in a warehouse near Gary, Indiana. He poured a drink and slid it toward her. "You're smarter than this, Mary." "Helping Caleb? He's a corpse with a countdown." She glared. "Then why are you still talking?" Cain chuckled. "Because I don't want you dead. I want you broken." He leaned in close. "And I want you to deliver a message to Caleb." Then, with a nod, one of his men smashed a crowbar into her ribs. Mary was dropped at Preach Gym at dawn, bloodied, bruised, but alive. Caleb knelt beside her, fists clenched so tight they bled. He said, "You're next," Mary whispered. Caleb stood up, tossed his jacket aside, loaded every clip he had. Then he better be ready. Chicago, South Side, Preach Gym 1 week later. The air inside was heavy with rage, revenge, and war-ready silence. Mary sat in a wheelchair, her ribs bandaged, her eyes fixed on Caleb. "You know what you're about to start," she warned. Caleb didn't blink. He holstered his weapon, then looked at each member of the crew. "Preach, Bricks, Eloise, Graves. Cain took everything from me. My father, my mother, my peace. Now he wants to send messages." He stepped forward, voice sharp like a blade. "We're going to send one back. A final one he can't reply to. Detroit, Cain's penthouse downtown. The skyline glowed behind him, but Silas Cain didn't care. He sipped cognac slowly, watching his empire smolder from afar. Trinity Locke leaned on the window, watching his reflection. "Word is, Ward's coming for you personally," she said. Cain smiled. "Good. Let him. You really think you can take all of them?" Cain turned, eyes cold. "I won't have to." "You are." Trinity raised an eyebrow. "I've cleaned up your messes for 10 years. If you want this war finished, you finish it yourself." Cain approached her slowly, his presence like pressure in a room. "I built you, Trinity, and if I have to unbuild you, I will." She stared back for a moment, then walked away. For the first time in years, Cain looked uneasy. Back in Chicago, a final plan. The crew met in an old abandoned church on 63rd. Graves laid out blueprints. Cain's money was funneled through an illegal crypto laundering server housed in a converted warehouse in Calumet City. That building? He'd be visiting it personally in 48 hours. Cain was trying to move everything, cash, control, power, before Ward and his crew could wipe him off the map. That would be their battleground. But this time it wouldn't be quiet. "We take the warehouse," Caleb said. "We end it there. No more ghosts. No more past. Just fire." 48 hours later, Calumet City warehouse. It started at dusk. Cain arrived with a fleet of SUVs, armed guards, drones, reinforcements. He was preparing for a digital transfer worth $22 million in crypto. That's when the lights cut. The server screens went dark, and from the rafters above, bullets rained. Bricks crashed to the wall like a wrecking ball, blasting 2 guards. Preach swept the left wing with military precision. Eloise moved like a phantom, blade in one hand, Glock in the other. Caleb made his way straight for Cain. They met in the heart of the warehouse. Cain stood calmly beside a burning pile of ledgers and cash. "Well," he said, "look who grew up." "You killed my family," Caleb replied. "For money, for control." Cain shook his head. "I killed your father because he was weak. He wanted to be clean. Ain't no clean in this world. Only survivors." Caleb's voice lowered. "Then die like the predator you are." Cain pulled his gun. Caleb pulled his faster. Bang. Cain staggered, hit in the shoulder. He laughed through the blood. "That all you got, boy?" Caleb stepped closer, pressed a muzzle to Cain's chest. "This is for my mother." Bang. Cain collapsed. The devil's crown shattered with him. 10 minutes later, sirens howling. The crew fled through a back tunnel Graves had pre-planned. Helicopters hovered. SWAT was en route. But the warehouse? Already burning. Cain's money, his servers, his last chance at survival, gone. Weeks later, Bronzeville. Mary opened her new community center, funded anonymously, Inside the walls were photos of kids smiling, not holding guns, not running corners. Outside, a black Charger idled. Caleb watched from the driver's seat. Preach stood beside him. You ever gonna stop running? Caleb smiled faintly. Not running. Just not done. Cain's gone. You won. Caleb shook his head. One devil down. But there's more where he came from. Preach lit a cigar. You got a name now. People respect it. Caleb looked out over the south side skyline. No, they're going to respect what comes next. He pulled off into the night, not as a soldier, but as a new king, one who earned his throne not with money, but vengeance carved in concrete. If you love deep, true crime stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what we bring out next. This is Ruthless Realities. Until next time,